Hello, my name is Jonathan Weaver. I will be doing my presentation on the effects of technology on society. I'll be focusing on three main points within this presentation: the situation, the source, and the solution. Regarding the situation, in an article written by Ed Rensi in 2018, published by Forbes magazine, he reports that as of 2020, self-service ordering kiosks will be implemented at all U.S. McDonald's locations. This is showing that not only are individuals becoming dependent on technology, but also companies and corporations, which can prove difficult in the job market going forward. Computers may be replacing some of our jobs. Most Americans can't leave the house without their phone. I've done it. Many of you have probably done it. You've been in a rush, trying to get to school, to work, leave the house, realize you forgot your phone, turn around, go back, even making yourself more late. We feel like we can't live a day without it. Most individuals also feel like they can't navigate without using a GPS or a MapQuest app. I remember my first job, maybe like 10 years ago, so I'm showing my age a little bit, where I was a delivery driver for a small company. The boss didn't want us to use a GPS or navigation. She wanted us to use an actual map, which wasn't very efficient, but I was lost. I mean, it showed even back then the dependency I had on the GPS, much more so today. Even when I'm going to places I'm familiar with on road trips or family vacations, I always just put in the address in the GPS and let it tell me exactly where to go. We're dependent on our phone for a lot of things. I mean, making appointments, checking our bank accounts, finding out the best restaurant in town, or at least the restaurant that paid for the best reviews or the best advertisements. So we're dependent. That dependency leads to addiction. Addiction to technology has a negative effect on our work performance. In an article published last year in the MIT Technology Review written by Jamie Conliffe, he reports that the amount of time the average American spends online is almost 24 hours a week. A full day out of the week we spend online. It affects our work performance. In an article published by Science Daily in 2014, the University of Virginia reported a study that found that the use of online social media for personal purposes during working hours can have a negative effect on work performance and the well-being of the organization. Not only work performance, but school performance. In a recent study done at a Northeast college conducted by Dr. Jennifer L. Walsh, it was found that an increased use of media correlated with a decline in academic performance. Investigators determined that use of media, from texting to chatting on cell phones to posting status updates on Facebook, may lower grades for freshman female students. Of course, not just females, or not just freshmen, but also males, and whatever year you're in college, it can have a negative impact. They just surveyed female freshmen. It may have been a women's only college. It doesn't specify, just as it was a Northeast college. So not only does it affect work performance and school performance, but it also affects our safety. Addiction to technology can negatively impact our safety. In a recent article by Sarah Marsh, published in The Guardian, an expert in the field named Craig Pinckney is quoted as saying, "If there is a fight outside school now, for example, the chances are that social media has been involved." The article also explains that gangs are even using social media to recruit members now. And we've all seen the crazy videos on Facebook and YouTube of people performing stunts and pranks where they hurt themselves or even unfortunately hurt others just for likes or shares. Going even further, in an article by Sarah Witt in 2016 published in the CNBC Business News and Finance Report, she states that Germany has put ground-level traffic lights at intersections so pedestrians whose eyes are glued to their cell phone will not have to look up to know when the walk sign is displayed, instructing them that they can now cross the street. People were actually getting hit by cars because they would not look up from their phone and would walk out into traffic, so they had to install traffic lights on the ground where people's eyes were directed toward their phones. Continuing the situation or the problem, the dependency and the addiction comes because our minds are stimulated by technology, not necessarily in a good way. There's FOMO for existence, or for example, fear of missing out. We constantly look at social media because we're afraid we're going to miss something if we don't. We're looking to see if we've added more friends or friends have added us, or we've got more followers on our Twitter or Instagram accounts. Tristan Harris compares this reloading and refreshing social media to a slot machine. He gives an example in his essay, How Big Technology Has Hijacked the American Mind, as a gambler going and using a slot machine. He's not doing it just for the money. He's also doing it for the excitement in the experience. Same thing happens with us when we constantly refresh our phones or look for something new on social media. It excites us and stimulates our brains, but not necessarily in a good way. Going from the situation to the source. We all are responsible for our own use of technology, but at the core of it lies these big tech companies. Kat Czarkowski reports in an article published in 2019 by the Washington Post that 5 of the largest U.S. tech companies poured a combined $64.2 million into federal lobbying efforts last year. That is a 10% increase from the previous year, and Google alone accounted for nearly $22 million of that figure. These companies continually lobby Congress to not enforce or strengthen rules and regulations against them with enormous amounts of money. Why? Because they're making an enormous amount of money. They make these enormous amount of money by directing traffic to other websites, getting kickbacks. They entice consumers to make purchases, or they make money off that. Autoplay is a technique used by Facebook, Netflix, YouTube to keep the consumer longer. These companies can show that consumers have come to their websites often and stay for a long time. They can sell more ads. They also do this by offering free trials. Tristan Harris in his essay says that businesses naturally want to make the choices they want you to make easier and the choices they don't want you to make harder. He gives an example of this as a free trial where if you click on something to upgrade your service, it's as easy as just a click. But then when it's time to cancel, it's a lot more difficult. You have to make a phone call, wait through customer service. A lot of times they've already charged your account. You have to go through your credit card to get a refund. They're definitely making the choices they want you to make easy, and the choices they don't want you to make, canceling your service, difficult. So we know the situation or the problem. We know the source. Now let's talk about the solution. To come to a solution, we have to talk about failed attempts. Some of the failed attempts are where schools or companies were putting the assignments, specifically schools, for their students on social media. This was a good idea. It allowed kids to use something that they enjoy to access their school information, but then at the same time it was a distraction. You'd log on to Facebook to view your assignment on the website or the school page, and then you'd see a notification and end up scrolling Facebook for an hour. Then there's the extreme of absolutely no technology, which I think is a danger as well, because I think technology in and of itself is not bad. It has done great advancements in medicine and science. We can connect with family and friends like never before, so it's good to use it, but we must use it wisely. So we must educate ourselves. We must understand the unethical practices that these companies are using to hijack our minds and to refuse it. We do this by changing our mind. In his book, Word Without Mind, Franklin Ford states that optimistic prospects for escaping the pull of Facebook, Google, and Amazon come in the form of yogurt, granola, and mache. I may have mispronounced that. What he's comparing the technology world to is the fast food industry. People realized that the food that they were putting in their bodies was unhealthy, so they demanded a change. So now you can get a salad instead of a burger and fries. We must demand a change so these companies quit using these unethical practices. So we have to change our mind, and then we have to change our habits. Instead of just scrolling through Facebook or watching Netflix for 4 hours, we need to read. We need to exercise or socialize, face-to-face interaction, not just over the phone. We need to do things that stimulate our mind for the better instead of just mindlessly allowing these companies and these big tech inventions to hijack our minds. And then finally, here are my references. Thank you all for your time. Have a nice day.